Hi everyone, and welcome back to Balkan, the show that's going to help you navigate the massive challenges of life, motherhood, culture, identity, and belonging with more ease, acceptance, joy, and purpose. Thanks to each and every one of you that come back every time to listen, learn, heal, and feel inspired. If you do love the podcast, then do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button. It really does help spread the word.
Hi, beautiful humans. How are you all? It's Ivana back here, and I'm so excited about today's podcast guest. Honestly, I say that about everybody, obviously, because of course I'm excited about the people that come on. It's people who inspire me and motivate me to be my better self, I guess. Today I have the lovely Helen. She also goes by the YOGINI, and her yoga name is Lamo, and she is my yoga teacher. So yeah, look, yoga has been therapy for my soul, food for my soul, and it's all very partially thanks also to my best friend Franka. I hope she's listening. If you are, I want you to know that I love you. I dedicate this episode to you. She really introduced me to the proper world of yoga, not what we see in gyms and things like that and in classes. And yeah, I'm fortunate that Helen just lives down the road from me and she's in my suburb. And I'm so grateful that I get to go there every week. It's literally my therapy. It's helped me get through a lot of things. And I thought, what better way to share her teachings and her wisdom and so forth. And I know that you'll benefit a lot from this episode. We talk a lot about the myths of yoga. So we talk about why people think bad things about yoga, especially coming from our culture. Yoga's the devil, yoga's this, yoga's that. We also talk about why people struggle to meditate, why people struggle to sit with themselves, why they struggle to be in silence or spend time by themselves. We talk a lot about the womb. We talk a lot about forgiveness and being women and having control and doing it all. And we talk about acceptance and surrender and letting go. And after this episode, it's actually followed by a free 10-minute meditation. So once you've listened to this episode, straight away the next one should play. And it's actually, a gift from Helen to my audience, to you guys all over the world. It's a free 10-minute meditation, a forgiveness meditation. It's very, very powerful. You don't need anything. You just need yourself. So if you are feeling stressed out, if you're feeling depressed, you're lacking purpose, you're just overwhelmed, especially if you've got children as well. We know how easy it can get to get to that place where we just feel overwhelmed. So this is why I wanted to bring Helen on and talk a little bit about, the systems of yoga and how it's actually not about flexibility at all. It's actually got everything to do with just about how flexible you are with life. And also your breath, how connected we are or how not connected we are to our breath, and how important that is. And a lot of just de-shedding and deconditioning from the things that we've been taught, obviously by our parents and by our culture, and I know being Croatian and being in that European culture, coming from the Balkans and being a refugee and going through the war. And honestly, I feel like, experiences like that bring so many feelings of lack of safety, lack of belonging, just lack of everything. You have issues later on in life with scarcity, with growing up with not much. And then, coming into a world where there's so much opportunity and you try and do everything. And I think a lot of refugees and I think a lot of immigrants, they feel like this when they come to new places. They feel like they have to grab every single opportunity because if they don't, it's going to get away from them. And I know this is something that we've all suffered from, that maybe your parents have suffered from, or you have, yourself experienced this. And then also what we're teaching our kids and what they see. So just recently, I actually booked a massage for me and my husband with by a lovely local lady who comes to your house. And the reason why I did this was Not so much because I needed the massage that day, but I actually did. I wanted Vito to see us relaxing. I wanted Vito to see mum was relaxing, because all he ever sees is me at the kitchen. There's all these photos on my phone that he takes of me secretly when he steals my phone. There's pictures of me just at the sink. And I just think, how sad. Like, is this kid just going to remember his whole childhood, his mum's in the kitchen? Which is basically what I remember from my mum, just always preparing, always cooking, always cleaning, always doing, barely ever really relaxing. Obviously, I do remember the powerful moments, where she would take us to the library and we would watch her read and things like that. So that's the moments I loved and I remember her for as well. So I thought, well, what legacy am I leaving? What impression am I giving? And instead of just stressing about reprimanding him or disciplining him or all sorts of things, I just thought I'll turn inward. I'll turn towards me. And how do I want him to remember me? And I know this is, maybe a big question to ask. I'm only 34, about to turn 35, guys. All right. I'm getting up there in age. And it just made me think about a lot of things. And just recently as well, a beautiful Serbian woman. I don't know if you guys have been following this case. It seems it's unrelated, to what we're talking about today, but it's actually not. And her name was Anna Walsh, and she was Serbian, and she lived in America with her husband and 3 children, and she went missing on New Year's Day. So they've done a lot of obviously a lot of digging and a lot of searching for her body and where she is and what's happened. And look, it's quite a gruesome story, so I'm not going to get into details. But basically, 3 little children have been left, to deal with this traumatic event of, their father taking their mother's life. And yeah, it's really hit deep because, she was one of us and, she was going for that big American dream. And if you want to know more details, you can Google this and you can read for yourself. But yeah, it just made me think how time is so short and so limited. How there's evil people out there and a lot of those people aren't even strangers. They're people that we know. You think, no one's ever going to hurt you like that. But unfortunately, in this case, it's unraveled in this way. And yeah, it just made me think about my own life and my own direction and my son and what I'm leaving behind for him. God forbid anything ever happened. You never want to think worst case scenario, but things in life do happen. And yeah, I just want to operate from a place of security and safety and peace. And I think, we all just deserve to feel safe within our bodies, within our environments. So yeah, today's episode or any episode I bring forward, or, things I talk about that are currently happening in the world, this is all just my take on it or my perspective. It's definitely not, we're not trying to cure anything. We're not trying to fix anybody. And the guests that come on board are merely just giving suggestions as to ways that we can, maybe all improve the way we eat, breathe, and love and the way we do things. So yeah, don't take it, I guess, for facts or for Bible, because at the end of the day, you have to choose what's right for you, what works for you. So I always say, take everything with the grain of salt, take it on board and apply it in a way into your life that works for you and your family. So I hope that, the episodes I brought forward and the guests that have come on and the stories they've shared, I hope maybe it's enlightened you or even reminded you of who you are, where you're from, where you're going. And I think, it's important to take away all the good elements of our culture and to take away the good things that our ancestors brought us and also get rid of anything that we don't want and that we don't need and that we no longer want to carry. That's okay too. These burdens aren't yours to carry. So, and neither is for your children. So I hope this episode is a little bit enlightening, a little bit informative. And if you love it, please share it, obviously. Connect with me online. I love hearing from you guys. And I love just seeing all the listeners and the different countries you're all in. So I want to know who you are, where you're from, what you do, what's your story. If you're interested in being a guest, please let me know as well. Reach out on Instagram and send me an email. And I hope that you're having a fabulous day, a fabulous night, whatever time it is there. And thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. And I hope to see you guys in the next episode. Make sure that you, after this episode, that you skip to the next track as well, which has got the free 10-minute meditation. It will really help if you want to center yourself. If you are holding a lot of grudges, if you are, just have a lot on your shoulders, a lot on your chest, it will just help release. It's a forgiveness meditation, which I loved, which I did last week in her studio. And it was very powerful for me, and I cried like a baby because I think forgiveness in our region, in our area, considering what we've all been through, is really important. It's really crucial. Without forgiveness, we can't move on. And it doesn't mean that we are forgiving that other person or that institution or whatever, whoever you're forgiving. It just means that you're creating peace within yourself and you're letting go of something that no longer has control over you. So I hope you find it as useful as I did. And let me know what you think, and download it onto your phone or share it with whoever you think it will benefit. Thank you for being here. Hvala vam od srca I čujemo se in the next episode, guys. Ciao. Mwah. Doviđenja. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Balkan Sis. I am so excited today. I say that every time I do a recording and every time I have a guest, I always say the same things, that I'm really excited. But today I'm actually super, super, super excited because my beautiful yoga teacher is here. And no, I'm not a professional yogini by any means. As Helen would tell you, I'm definitely not a professional. I cry more than what I do anything else when I'm there. But I've been wanting to have her on for ages, for a really long time, because even just through Frankie, my best friend, her being as well in the yoga world, I've just seen the amazing benefits that it's brought to my life. So I thought, well, what better person to bring on than Helen? So Helen goes by two names, Helen and Zengden, and she'll elaborate a little bit on that. So without any further ado, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to let Helen introduce herself. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Ivana. It's such an honor to be here. I'm really, really excited and really honored to be sharing all the what has led me to be and do what I do.
Oh, honestly, what you do is amazing. And I just want to also state to people that we are on the Gold Coast and Helen has a yoga studio that she runs here from the Gold Coast. So she's a local girl. And yeah, that's how we connected. We literally live 10 minutes down the road from each other. But I wanted to bring her on the airwaves so that I can share her with everyone, with all of my favorite people. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, what you're about, who you are, and how you got into the world of yoga?
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm not very young. I'm 64, and I've been doing yoga for most of my life, off and on when I was younger, mostly meditation. And then I got into yoga a little bit later on when I had some personal problems going on. So basically, I've lived on the Gold Coast. I'll just give the quick bio first. I was born in Brisbane and I've lived on the Gold Coast for the last, since I was 11. So yeah, it was at 53 years. And love it here. So how I got into yoga. Initially, I started practicing yoga when I was 15 and loved it then. And then, of course, life, relationships, things happen and, teachers come and go. It wasn't such a big deal back then. It was very unknown thing. And so, it was hit and miss. It would come and go in my life. Then when I got to be in my late 30s, my mother was told she didn't have long to live. And I was caring for her and not coping very well. So I was 38 then. And so I'm like, I ended up with dangerously high blood pressure. And so I was told, by the medical profession to find something that I really love doing and do it because I needed a distraction from or something to sort of counterbalance the trauma with my mother. So I'm like, okay, yoga was the first thing that came to mind because I'd loved it throughout my life. And the other one was horse riding. So within a couple of weeks, I'd actually started both. It just happened. I came across someone that had horses. They wanted someone to ride them. So that happened. The yoga, I started with a book because there were no yoga teachers around. So I bought a book and started just, practice by practice through the pages of the book. Now, the interesting thing about that was that within a relatively short time. Now, when I first started doing that, even though I was 38, I was not that flexible at that point. I couldn't catch my toes. Um, so many things I found very, very hard in the book. So, but over a time and in a very short time, I started to develop strength and flexibility. But the biggest change was in myself and how I was dealing with my mother, how I was dealing with life situations. So I found also in food, I found my taste buds started to veer for different types of food. And I just really noticed a big difference in my moods because I was always very feisty, very sort of, hot tempered, very emotional. And I found I was much more balanced and things didn't ruffle me up as much. I was able to deal with a lot of things. So that sort of kept me going with that. It became a real passion. And because it was so helpful, and consequently, thank goodness, because my mother lived for another 5 years. So, if I hadn't taken those steps, I hate to think how my life would have played out. It really gave me a great foundation for dealing with things in my everyday life.
Yeah.
So after I started that, I then had a few other little bit emotional things as time went on, going through menopause, that type of thing. So I actually found a yoga teacher and started practicing. So from the book, I practiced every day for all those years. And then eventually I went to a studio and decided that I really would like the the community, and also just I wanted to make sure I'd been doing it right all those years, because I was self-taught. And I found an amazing woman in Southport, Shanti, and once again, my whole experience of life up leveled. I became so much more confident. I, developed a much greater even flexibility, but also Shanti incorporated a lot of philosophy and a lot of wisdom in her practice. And that really supported, so many areas of my life. So I continued with that. And then I changed yoga teachers several times because I wanted to experience at that point different types of teachers and where they were coming from and the differences between them and what I felt was, authentic and what wasn't. And I ended up meeting an amazing young woman, Emmanuel Brown, and she gave me a yoga teacher training to be a teacher. We were just having a discussion one day, and she saw something in me that she felt needed to be utilized more. So she was running a yoga teacher training program and going to India. And so I became part of that. And I was, I think I was about 7 years ago. So 57, I was 57. And I trundled off to India with her and a few other people and lived in ashram there and did yoga studies. And that was really when I became absolutely very, very serious because it just had such a huge, huge effect. And I knew how much of an effect it had on me because when I was younger, which I didn't mention earlier, I suffered a lot of depression. I was bipolar. I suffered severe anxiety. I'd had several mental breakdowns, which was why I became very scared when my mother was dying. Like I felt that, this was the end for me if I didn't really do something serious. So, and the interesting thing is that after all these years of practicing yoga, although it happened quite quickly, all of those um, issues that I had went away. They all went away quite quickly within, a few months. I just noticed my mood stabilizing. My reactionary response was like much more controlled and level-headed. And I would no longer stress.
And those still happen. Like, it's just that they don't control, they don't dictate anymore. They don't hold
Absolutely.
power. It's like you get a bit excited or a bit anxious or a bit this or a bit that, or depending on the situation. But it's like you just have a bigger skill set, a bigger tool set to
Yes.
cope with it. That's the biggest thing. And I think when people think like there's a one-stop shop to cure things or to, it's not that. Like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, you're not suppressing those emotions. You're basically just getting a better handle on them so that they don't run your life. Like, why, for me, the big thing is especially in our community, in the European community, especially Balkan community, why do you think there's such a large apprehension or such a big apprehension towards yoga? You know what I mean? Because yoga is so big everywhere else, but then you get into those little Baltic countries, like, and it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like something they do resorts or something like that, but it's not necessarily. So I remember even Frankie, my best friend, she lives in Zagreb in the city, and she was getting out of her studio, and she had some tradie guy, like, which we call like a maestro, and he was doing something to the building, and she walked out with her yoga mat, and he's like, "Oh, yoga!" Like, cracked a joke about it. Basically, it was like, "Does it even work? Like, it's like stupid what you're doing, right?" So that's that like level of judgment. So I mean, for you and me being where we're living now, or maybe even for people living in America or in the UK, it's a little bit more globalized there. It's become a little bit more of a modern thing to do, like especially in gyms and stuff like that. But why do you think in other places, like smaller places, there's still such a large gap or a big apprehension of people even wanting to get into yoga?
Okay. I think a lot is a combination of a couple of things. I'd say definitely cultural conditioning to how people feel they're supposed to behave and what they're open to bring into their life. And so fear of judgment from friends, partners, in-laws, whatever. So that could play a big role in it. Also even, fear of doing something that could potentially change them. And they, at some level, know that. I mean, I know even here, I have people come and not everybody wants to change, even though it's for the better. They identify with the person that has all the issues and they're frightened to let that go. So, that can all be a part of why they would be hesitant to want to try it, but I'd say they're scared of judgment.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I agree. And it's also like, fear of trying something new. Also, I think it's also the religious aspect, like you said, the cultural aspect, because I had a lady, funnily enough, which is so hilarious to me. She lives in Australia and she was following me on Instagram. And I shared Frankie, my best friend, who I mention a lot, obviously, because she's, had such a big role in my life. And I shared some of her, like, her videos, it was like during COVID times, I think, and we were doing online yoga. And this lady was like, "Oh, why do you follow her?" Or like, "Why do you do yoga? That's like a devil's, doing or devil something." And I'm just like, "What?" And she was like full blown Croatian Catholic, very traditional. And I'm like, this is my best friend. And it doesn't matter what she's doing. I would do anything to support her. And at the end of the day, I'm like, what do you have against yoga? What's yoga ever done to you? Like, I'm not a Buddhist. Like, I'm not, like, do you know what I mean? I'm not a monk. Like, I'm not, I don't practice yoga every day. But I come to you once a week. Like, I would love to increase that because I see just the difference in me from when I attend once a week. Imagine what would happen if I did 5 days, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you can't deny once you've done that, once you've done yoga and you've done meditation, you can't deny what it does to you and the benefits. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I actually love, like, I remember at first when I was met and like the chanting really scared me, like when people like, or the singing or the chanting, I was just like, oh my God, oh my God. I'm like, what am I doing? I shouldn't be here. Like, my dad's going to fucking kill me. Like, it's so crazy what's going through your head while you're sitting there hearing this. And then as you start to sort of relax more and realize like, oh, no one's cursing me. No one, because I had a family member I brought to you as well. And
Right.
so Helen, oh, it's amazing. So her classes, we need to first set a picture of how it all looks like. So if you go on Helen's Instagram or even my Instagram, I've done photos and videos for her.
Yeah, amazing.
And her space is beautiful, right? So just to give you a visual, it's like beautiful. Everything's brown and wood and gorgeous, and everything smells nice. And it smells like when you go to church, It's really sacred. You can smell like this beautiful incense. You walk in and there's just beautiful things everywhere. It's so relaxing. It's like you got all the mats laid down. There's blankets, there's pillows. Like it's just a place where you just come and fall, like and just surrender. It's awesome. And I took a family member with me and she was hesitant to come, but she sort of felt compelled to come because another person was coming. And Helen says she also does sound healing. So you have the sound healing instruments where it's like a bowl, and then you have this thing that you hit the bowl with, which you can probably use better words to describe all that. And you do it on the heart space, or you do it on the stomach, or you do it on the back. And honestly, it's just feeling the vibration of this beautiful instrument on you, along with the singing. And it's just gorgeous, right? And so she was like, oh, I thought she was going to curse me, like she was cursing me. And I'm just like, she comes from this like super traditional Croatian Catholic family. And I'm just like, why would this person want to curse you? Like she runs a business, like she wants you to feel good so you can come back. Like,
yeah.
But that's that. Like for me, it shocked me. But then I realized like I'm so many steps ahead of, in terms of that.
Yes.
Ahead of that person to what they are. But I still thought it was a great beginning that they were even there to begin with. So
Totally.
it is sad that prejudice does exist with yoga. Why do you think people think, like whenever I mention yoga, people are like either they like laugh, or they're like, oh, yoga, like it's strange to them, or they say like, oh, but I'm not flexible.
Yes.
Like, why do you think they think it's related to flexibility? Because it's not gymnastics.
No, it's not. Well, in an interesting way.
It is and it isn't.
So
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that traditional yoga is not the yoga that's practiced in most of the studios around the world. So traditional yoga is a little bit different, and there's not as many postures. The postures, I think that the original, I'll use the word branding or introduction of yoga into the West from India, was focused around complicated postures. Because it was kind of looked like an art form or something very mysterious. It was like something that you had to look at because this person was tied up in knots, and it becomes a fascination. And so then it becomes all about the body and all about the pose and about how flexible you are, and of course we're all ego driven. So it's like, can I get into that pose? Like every person who starts a yoga practice who isn't sort of more understanding of what the reality is, wants to do a headstand, or wants to do the splits, or wants to put their leg behind their ear and that sort of thing. So I think that's the big thing about the postures. And for some, it becomes laughable because they don't understand it. So it's, when you hear something, if you don't understand it, you laugh.
Yeah.
It's like a big, it's like the natural reflex to not understanding something is to laugh.
Yeah. And it's also because I think like doing a practice or like doing yoga it's like the biggest anecdote to a busy world, right? So it's like, what's the worst thing that you can get to go against the current modern standards of the living world, which is yoga, right?
Yes. That's antithesis of the modern world.
Correct. Like it's the biggest medicine. Actually, It's funny. Everything we need to heal ourselves is actually already here. Like it's already been done from our ancestors. So it's not like a new thing, right? But the minute you strip away the spiritual element and you take yoga into a gym, it's like completely normalized. But then the minute you put the spiritual with it, which is the whole point, and the reason why those poses exist is because those poses all unlock something within your body. So can you explain the chakras? Can you explain what that is? And just explain to people why it's so important to connect the physical with the spiritual element in yoga. And also I want to state to people that what I loved about yoga, what I didn't like about any other sports and things I did or any classes, what I loved was the no judgment. Like that was my favorite. I remember when Frankie was doing it with me and we were in the studio and I'm like, oh, I can't do that. I'm not holding it long enough. Or some things I could hold for ages and I was so proud. I saw other people falling down, like, wow, I'm doing so well. And then they would do another pose and I couldn't bend as far with my back. And I was like, oh
Yes.
my God. But then I actually just realized it wasn't about that. And everyone was there for themselves and
Yeah.
everyone was there to go at their own pace. And there was like no judgment on me, no judgment on others. Everyone's there for them doing something. But it's like that collective energy in the room is rising and healing, which I loved. So that was my favorite part. Whereas like if you go exercising at F45 or you do that circuit training, it's all about time. It's all about how quickly, and how fast you can do something in that amount of correct. So then when you're forced to be in a space where you're actually meant to slow down and challenge yourself in a different way, you're like, oh my God, I'm standing on one leg. Why am I struggling? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
It's not difficult. It's just the moment.
I'm like, oh, and it actually represents like how you said, the more flexible you became in yoga, the more flexible you became with life.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you explain the chakra system to people, what it means, and what's the best way to sort of describe like how the physical is tying in? Because I said to Frankie once, it was not very nice. I was in the car and I said, it's just a bunch of fucking moves anyway. It's just a bunch of moves. So she's like, well, to me, it's not.
Yeah.
And like now I realize it's not.
No, it's not. No.
When I see the child's pose and I'm like, I'm just going to go in the child's pose. I'm going to stay there forever.
Yeah.
It's actually like, it actually resembles like being even in the womb, in your mum's womb. And there's a reason for that pose is that surrender. So can you sort of explain that part a little bit, like the spiritual and the physical?
Sure. Yeah. So the interesting thing is with the difference with the spiritual and the physical. So yoga is itself, like as a practice, is timeless. So it's dated to being written down, but it was an oral tradition long, like thousands of years, even before it was actually written down. And it started as a spiritual practice. So it's about connecting to your true self, your authentic self. So it's not the self that picks up all the habits through, family, culture, whatever. It's not the self that, has the opinions of how you're supposed to behave. The self that's been told certain things by other people at school or, elders that you still, when you're 40 or 50 years old, still believe about yourself, but it's not true. So it's about losing the conditioning of who you think you are and being able to tap into your authentic self, which is beyond all of those things. But speaking about the chakra system, that's kind of interesting. The chakra system that we know in the West was actually quite a lot of it was developed by a Westerner, Carl Jung. So a lot of people know Carl Jung was one of the fathers of modern psychology. So he was very interested in yoga and all yogic practices. And so he used the chakra system and added the colors and things to it so that Westerners could identify with it in a simpler way. But the chakras are actually, they're vortexes of what's called the subtle body. So it's an energy body. So we have a physical body and we have an energy body. And the energy body has an anatomy just like the physical body, but the anatomy is a bit different. And the chakras are areas. We have 3 main channels. Altogether, there's 72,000 channels in the energy body. But just like if you were doing acupuncture, there's all these channels. So this is in the energy body. But there's 3 main channels. So the right channel is Pingala and the left channel is Ida. One is more masculine, one is more feminine, to make it simple. The central channel is called Sushumna. And the central channel is like the main freeway of the body, where all information, everything goes through it. So these channels cross over at certain parts of the subtle body. And where they cross over the central channel, the Sushumna, then they create a vortex like a whirlwind of energy, and that's the chakra. So it's caused by the force of these other chakras crossing over. Now, the thing about that is it actually goes back many, many thousands of years, and it's not just in yoga. The Greeks also knew about this, which is where um, what do they call it? Like Hippocratic symbol of doctors, where they have the staff with the snakes going up staff for healing. That is the same energy as what's known in yoga as the chakras and the channels.
Oh,
So
it goes back so far, doesn't it? Like,
and it's not just yoga. It comes like I said, the Greeks, a lot of Greek, ancient Greek beliefs are also, it's very similar to a lot of yogic beliefs. So it's not just one culture, it's others as well.
correct. Yeah.
So that's kind of in a nutshell, I mean, I could go into it, there's 7 chakras. That's a whole other.
Oh, 100%. Like your teachings, like what you teach, like even I even struggle just to explain to people in one class, like what you do. Like I even just struggle to explain it to people. I'm like to people, just come, like just come in to just be there, because I'm trying to explain to them we're not doing poses because there's different types of yoga. Can you just explain some of the different classes you have, like the different types, like the yin and the hatha, like the different.
Yes.
So if you can understand that it's like just like there's yoga and then it's like an umbrella term, and then there's so many little branches veering off from that.
That's right. Yeah, the word yoga is used very broadly, actually, and it encompasses a lot of different types of practices. Traditionally, there's 8 different aspects of yoga, which are called the 8 limbs of yoga. But in my particular classes, I do a morning class, and in that class, we do what is now called breathwork, but in yoga, it's pranayama. So it's different breath techniques that help support people, because once we know how to breathe properly, our life immediately starts to improve. We have more energy, we have more clarity, digestion improves, your cell regeneration improves, your mind is vibing, it's getting proper oxygen. So many things with breath technique that is important. And yoga has hundreds of techniques for different types of effect. So then usually we do that. We do what's called kriya. Kriyas are movements that kind of like super yoga, but you don't really do very much. So it's all got to do with breath, with mudras, which are hand gestures, and it can add mantra, which is like what's called a sound medicine. Nadi, it's called Nadi yoga. So, I mean, in that we have pranayama, which is a type of yoga. We have kriya yoga, which is a type of yoga. We have nada yoga, which is a type of yoga sound. There's hatha yoga, which is the most traditional physical posture yoga. So hatha yoga is when you're doing a physical posture and you hold that pose for some time. And that allows the body to actually go into the pose and the mind. So as opposed to very common in gyms is what's called vinyasa. Vinyasa is a very modern technique, and it's a flow where you move from one pose to the next continually. Now, it's got benefits in the terms of it's a little bit aerobic. It does help open the body up, but it doesn't have the very profound effects that hatha yoga has. So you really need to hold the pose, go into the pose, hold it, and then be absorbed in the pose, physically and mentally. Things start to come up then, like, this is hurting, that's hurting. Why am I doing this? There's all sorts of mental dialogue, and this is where it cracks open in you parts. Whereas when you're constantly moving, you're distracting and you don't have time to go into those spaces.
Yeah, correct. Because we live in such a fast world, like everything. So instant, like everything.
Totally.
Messages, like phones, technology, cars, like, and even just here where we are, like in Europe, I know it's still a little bit different depending on where you live or how you live.
Yes.
But I just feel like, when you go into the village, it's like things are so slow. And it's like someone's fixing their house for the last 30 years. Like it's still not been rendered, People outside on their like balcony drinking coffee. Like it's just different, or like they bump into each other and then they talk to each other in the city and they sit down and have a quick coffee. Whereas here you're trying to organize literally like a date with someone for a whole month or 2 months,
Totally. And they'll still probably cancel.
But that's what I mean. Like, that's the tricky thing. So it's like, can you just elaborate on why? Because for me, I never grew up knowing the importance of breathing or why breath is so important. Like, I never, like, always highly anxious and like all those things are symptoms, like you were saying, the anxiety, the nervousness, all that. It's all just symptoms of deeper problems that occurred that obviously you didn't get taught, how to deal with those things. And coming from, refugee parents for us and for a lot of like, and your husband as well, he's Hungarian. Right. So we see that also in him a lot as well. Like when we talk after class, that sense of urgency, that work ethic, all the things that make us great.
Yes.
Also all the things that make things a little bit difficult for us. So it's like a double-edged sword, It's like you pick the cross you want to wear, but like you don't have to wear it all the time. You can put it down for you sometimes. And that's what I realized. Like just because I'm going to yoga and just because I'm improving myself or I'm breathing better, I'm doing this, like I'm not relinquishing who I am. I'm not changing my identity. I'm basically just upscaling who I am. Like I'm just adding new skills to magnify already the talents in yourself.
You're enhancing your quality of life.
Correct.
And then you can pass that quality on to your children, your grandchildren, your parents, like everyone you meet.
100%.
You become a person who, that people want to be around. You can help people.
Yes.
You're enhancing your quality of life.
And that's the thing I think as well, like it's very hard to go from one way of living to it's like what you said, you have to hit a complete brick wall to go, holy shit, like I'm either going to die or I have to change something. It's that extreme.
Yes.
So like for me, it took so much hard work to work on bringing things down. Versus, like, let's say Andrew, my husband, who's naturally very calm and who's had a very nice upbringing, a very nice life, a very stable, normal, even life. So for him, he's not necessarily attracted to as much to this sort of work as to what I am, because to him, it's already so natural, like just to be that way, to live that way. But then again, his security and his sense of safety wasn't threatened at a young age.
That's right.
So he hasn't needed to, but then when I see him, and in order for him to get excited, it takes a lot. But in order for me to come, I'm tethering up here. And then in order for me to come down, it takes so much work, because I can go off like a firework in 2 seconds if I want to. But just because I have that power doesn't mean I should use it all the time. So can you just explain a little bit about like why the way we breathe is so important, especially like as well for mums who have young children too? I look in general for all humans, but specifically mums, because you literally, when you have a baby, you feel like you're swimming underwater.
Yes.
You feel like you never get to come up for air. So you're constantly like, it's just on your chest and you're nervous. Like, oh my God, is my baby going to die? Like, is my baby going to die? It's that primal instinct, So it's like, what are some benefits?
Shallow.
Yeah. And what are some benefits of learning how to, let's say, quote unquote, breathe properly? What does it mean to breathe properly?
Okay. So the most important thing I think for most people is to realize that your breath is the single most important thing in your life. Now we take our breath for granted because it just happens. But the reality is if it doesn't happen in 3 minutes, you're going to be dead. So this is something, once you can get that into your head, you start to think about breath a little bit differently. You can go, which we've talked about in class many times, you can go 28 days approximately without food. You can go 3 days approximately without water. But 3 minutes is breath, that's the max. And so it's understanding that we need breath for our body and mind to function optimally. So if we can improve the quality of breath, then we immediately are improving every aspect of our being. And we can calm the nervous system through breath techniques. Like occasionally, if I'm very, very stressed for whatever, I don't know I'm stressed, but something might be going on in my life. I will wake up in the middle of the night and I might get a palpitation. The heart starts racing. The first thing I do is I do a yogic 4-part breath. It's one of the very simplest breath techniques you can use. And within less than a minute, my heart rate is normalized. So these breath techniques can absolutely lower. Now, I've lowered my blood pressure using the same technique. There was one point not so long ago, my blood pressure is usually on the low side, but I don't know what happened, but I must have been a bit unwell. My blood pressure was high. And we have a blood pressure machine. And I did the breath technique that I know through my practice to use. And within a very short time, my blood pressure was back to normal or a little on the lower side. So it's very powerful what you can do. Like you can stop a panic attack. I've done it. I used to have panic attacks once upon a time going through menopause. You can stop a panic attack. You can regulate your heartbeat. You can, completely calm your nervous system. It can clear your mind. So another important thing is because a lot of people suffer, we're just talking about like with having babies and things, and you get sort of like a brain fog. Now, proper breath techniques, which yoga are called pranayama, those breath techniques bring more oxygen to the brain. Once that starts to happen, the brain starts to rewire also. It starts to kind of reconnect the neurons in the brain. So the brain becomes more alive. So on top of the fact that you're just not so tired, you actually are thinking clearer. You're actually able to get bigger, brighter ideas. That's why you get ideas in yoga. You're lying there and you get brilliant ideas. This is sort of how it works, There's so many different things. You can use breath techniques if you're tired to help you gain more energy. And you can use breath techniques to calm your energy if you are really stressed out or anxious.
And why do you think it's so hard for people to sit still?
Oh, wow.
Because honestly, like I know it's such a loaded question because there's so many ways you can answer that.
Yeah.
But I find like when I talk to people, we just talk about so many different things. So the simplest thing isn't always so simple.
No, not at all.
Like, it's like everybody wants the answers, but the answers are there. But then nobody actually wants to do them, right? So it's one of those things like people will go and do a detox thing. People will go and do a crash diet. People will go to the gym and work themselves like to the bone. And I remember when I was just so severely unwell and I was just at a really hard stage in my life. It was when my grandmother was dying as well. We were planning our wedding. All sorts of things were happening. And I remember thinking, Ivana, stop being lazy. Like I actually said to her, I'm like, this is you slacking off. You're being lazy. I had no self-compassion, no self-mercy. Like I showed so much compassion to other people.
Yeah.
For myself, I'm like, go to the gym. And I would go and I would kill myself on the machines. Yeah. And then I was still like, oh, now you're eating shit. Like now you're having chips out. It was just this constant cycle of abusing myself mentally, emotionally, spiritually. There was actually just nothing spiritual left because I had just destroyed all of it thinking that I was being productive.
Yes.
So why do you think it feels counterproductive for people? Like to strip everything back? Like so many people say to me, I can't eat by myself. I don't go have meals on my own. Oh, no, I don't want to sit for 5 minutes. No. Like people can't bear the thought of sitting down for 5 minutes with themselves. Why?
Right. So it's fear of facing yourself. It's fear of facing yourself. Because if you sit down for, a short period of time, that's why people, when they're home on their own, they'll have the TV going all day. They'll have the radio going all day. Some people just can't stay there. They have to go out, at least once a day somewhere or go and visit friends. A lot of people, it's a distraction. All of this stuff is a distraction from looking at what's really going on for us, as individuals, what's going on inside ourselves. And not, it's denial, not wanting to know about it, not wanting to be present with yourself to really deal with that. That's why people drink. That's why people smoke. That's why people have all sorts of habits and distractions, sport on TV, shopping, gambling, because they don't want to sit and really look at what's going on or what comes up for them in their life and try and work that out. So allow it to be worked out because it can be. It's never that severe that you can't work it out. But the more you deny it, then that is going to sit inside your body, your physical body and your energy body, which we just
and it just grows. It just grows.
Well, it creates serious illness. It will create very serious illness because it's trapped energy that starts to kind of go back.
Yeah.
It starts to, if you like anything, if you have an apple and you don't eat it and you leave it on the bench for a couple of weeks, it's going to be rotten.
Yeah.
So if something is kind of like ignored, put aside, not utilized in the right way, it's going to go bad.
Yes, correct.
So
And
I'm
the thing is, you got to. I think it also comes down to safe spaces, because if you never felt safe as a child growing up, not due to your own wrongdoing, or things that happened that were bigger than you, and then also your parents were as well in that sort of moment as well. They didn't get any guidance. It's as if like parents should just know all the answers. But the thing is, I'm a parent and I don't.
yeah,
I don't have all the answers. Like sometimes I look at my kid and I'm like, holy shit, who the fuck qualified me to be your mum? Like
yes,
days I honestly, like a light bulb goes off. I'm like, I'm a mum. What? Like it's been 4 years, right? Like other times it's so natural and I'm like, I was born for this. And other times I'll like look at him and I'm like, you made me like be qualified for this. So weird. Like I
yes,
just these like weird epiphany. Like I just look at him and I'm like, man, I made this kid. Like, whoa,
yes,
Or like they do something and you just go, holy shit, like they're really clever, or they're really smart. That's so cool, right? Like
yes,
you're learning too. And I remember telling my mum when it started to getting to the point where he was getting older and I needed to sort of not discipline, but just work with him in a different way. He was becoming more aware. And my mum's like, don't be so hard on yourself. You're just learning too.
yes,
Like he's new to you and you're new to him, even though your souls have probably met before and you've chosen each other. Like you're still just both learning.
Yeah.
And I feel like once I started looking at my parents more just as people, not just mum and dad,
yes,
it shifted the way I looked at things, and yoga helped with that, because it was like when I changed the way I looked at myself,
yes.
then the world around me also changed and how I perceived others. And the thing
Absolutely.
is, like having you around, and I'd really recommend to people, like if you are not able to sit with yourself for 5 minutes a day, I mean, it could be over a coffee, you could just, I don't know, be looking out at the trees. Like that's a form of as well, meditation with yourself.
Yeah,
But if you're wanting to,
fine is a good
if you're wanting to do a
Right.
sort of practice, like, and you can't do it on your own, like that's okay, because we all have to start somewhere.
Yes.
And maybe things are too severe and you have been made to feel unsafe before.
Yeah.
So maybe it's too confronting and too much comes up, because you also got to know what to do when it does come up, because for a lot of people, it can be really bad. So I would suggest like to go to a local yoga class or work with with you online, or like work with a mentor, work with someone that you can trust. Because when I come into your space, I honestly feel so held, so safe, like so many, like it's one thing it was so powerful when the Ukrainian war was going on last year. When it started for a month, I wasn't even in my body. Like I literally had left my body, and it happened so quick. It wasn't even on purpose. It just happened. And I remember I went to your class and I'm sitting there and you were saying something, and then we were doing some sort of meditation. I don't know what happened. And I was leaning my back on the wall, and we're sitting there and the lights are really dim and there's candles, and, it just feels safe, and I trust and I just felt really safe. And I just had all these images that I thought that I didn't remember, because you think these memories, you can't access them.
Yes.
And I literally closed my eyes, and I think it was towards the end, and I had all these images flashing like a movie in front of me of things I've seen, and I've seen me and I've seen my family, and it was in real time, it was happening. And everything that was happening in my heart, like that was on my chest that I'd been storing and in my womb, like it just all came up in front of me, and it was like projecting, and it was just happening. But it felt like it was washing over me.
Yes.
It felt like actually like a good thing, not a bad
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
And then I just started crying because it was like leaving me, right? It was
that's
like
right.
remembering, and it's okay. And then it was leaving me because it had been re-triggered from the war, right?
Yes.
So, and when you had finished and you're like, you went ding and like the namaste, whatever. I just like went and hugged you so tight, like straight away. I just went and hugged you, and I was like, poor lady doesn't even know what's just happened. Like, everybody else is there just having a night's time, average Thursday night. And I'm having this like fucking huge emotional, mental, spiritual transformation.
Yes.
And like, that's how powerful it can be. And other sessions aren't like that. And like, that's fine. But it's about just these building blocks, like
Yes.
just building. And I found like when I don't calm, it's like I'm more snappy and I'm more cranky, and you don't even realize how beneficial it is until you are dealt with the crisis.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
it's like I was coming regularly, and then like Vito would have a tantrum, and I was fine. Like I wasn't triggered. I wasn't erupting like a volcano. I wasn't feeling suffocated. I wasn't getting anxiety. I was literally just like, okay, that's your emotions. All right. And then like within 5 minutes, it was fine, and we moved on.
Yes.
And I was just like, whoa. And I actually didn't even realize, holy shit, like what's the common thread here? I've been going to your classes for like the last, whatever, 6 months or whatever it was regularly.
Yeah.
And then I realized that was that linking point.
Yeah.
And that's why I try and get everyone to go. And it's so hard when you want to help a friend or a family member.
I know.
You see they're like going, you're like, please just go to yoga, please just go. And like, but they're just not ready. And that's fine.
Resistance.
And
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about as well, because the womb is so important, like, because that's another element, because there's so much to what you do, which we can't articulate all in one episode, but, you know, with the womb, like how important is it for us as women with all the trauma we're storing and all the stress and all the anxiety and all the ancestral wounds we're carrying from our family as well? How that affects our womb, and what are some things that we can do to help release the tension?
Yes, definitely. Look, becoming connected to your womb is really massive. A lot of women are completely disconnected from their wombs, from their genitals. You know, it's something that, you know, they couldn't even describe what they look like. You know, a lot of women have never even looked at their own body parts. And the important thing is to start to connect to the womb. Like, it doesn't have to be anything massive, but just that recognition of that is the center of creation. Like, it's not a place where, you know, you're cursed with menstrual blood or, you know, that's a problem. Because I mean, I used to suffer endometriosis, so I understand, you know, the issues you can get with the womb, but how important it is to really understand that your womb is like this sacred place. It's the sacred place where creation happens for humanity.
I know, but when we're shamed culturally, like I remember when I got my periods, like my mum didn't even talk to me. We never talked about sex, never talked about drugs, never talked about anything, right? So then when it did happen to me, I thought I was dying. I thought I had cancer. And then my sister comes in the room and I was trying to hide it. I was trying to hide the blood, and my sister comes in the room and she's like, congratulations, you're a woman. And I'm like, what? Fucking dying. And she's like, you got your periods. And my mum's like standing behind her. My sister's having this conversation. So culturally, like for a lot of us, you know, coming from the Balkan region and, you know, as well being married to Hungarian, like how things are different.
Yes.
How they operate differently in family systems. Because, you know, women are just really, it's a whole martyrdom, like feeling sorry for yourself, always having headaches, like always being unwell. It like becomes this thing like, if I was to say I have a sore stomach, then the older woman's like, oh, that's nothing, you know, try, like I've had that for 50 years. It's like, it almost becomes a competition of suffering.
That's so
Suffered
true.
more. And then it's almost like the person that suffered more wins because
That's right.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
That's the mentality, you know, and it's just like, you know, I love the community of the women sitting around drinking coffee and sharing stories. I love that. But then you've got the other cultural element, which is like, you don't talk about vaginas, you don't talk about sex, you don't talk about blood, you don't talk about the womb. And also the way childbirth is described. It's just like everything's meant to be bad. It's like you're meant to suffer here on earth so that you can go to a better place later.
Yes.
You know, and I feel like yoga, that's just the opposite, you know, and it's not meant to be like that.
I don't, you know, like I was brought up Catholic as well. So I understand, you know, the whole sort of concept. But I really, you know, believe that we need for our own self-esteem, like, because most women allow men to treat them quite badly, you know. We feel insecure around men and we feel we have to please them all the time or whatever, you know, and it's, we don't understand when we really understand what our feminine parts are, you know, our womb, our genitals, what they are, that they are this sacred place and that it's, you know, it's meant to be revered because, I mean, creation is the divine, it's God. And we are, you know, giving birth, we are actually manifesting a child in us and bringing that into the world. Now that's, you know, the Divine Mother, Mother Mary, is a mother.
Yeah.
You know? So somewhere along the line, things have got a little bit grey and a little bit black around women. I'd say just for control, because traditionally, I think, you know, women are meant to be revered for their what they do. Like, we are the holders of humanity.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. And I think it's sad, like, obviously for us young generation or even people who I wouldn't say enlightened because, look, we're all on our own journeys, on our own path. There's no wrong and right. Like that's another I learned from yoga. There is no wrong and right. Like like, oh, this way is better than this way. Like it's just acceptance, really. It's really comes down to acceptance, and surrender.
Yeah.
And, like having power by doing less, like, which is a very foreign concept in our culture.
Yes.
And but you being married for as long as you have, like, how many years have you guys been together now?
40 years.
Oh my God, like 40 years. That's insane.
Yeah.
It's like, that's insane. I thought 15 was good. I was feeling proud of myself. 15's coming up in March. I'm like so proud, man. I like stuck it out. But, even in marriage, how can sort of like, I guess, because it's always the woman working on herself and it's always the woman is self-improving, looking for hacks and ways to do things quicker and better. And, what are some ways, I guess, that we can as well relinquish that control? And it's like, we don't have to have it all together. Like you don't have to be the fixer of everything, for everything to survive.
Exactly. I think we've got to drop the pressure on ourselves, because especially nowadays, I mean, it was different in like my mother's day and my grandmother's day. So like your grandparents and whatever, women didn't work. And so everything revolved around the woman looking after the home and the children with no contraceptives, all that sort of thing. And so the woman did everything and the neighbors would get together and do washing and help each other. But nowadays it's very sad because women have to go to work, if you want to sort of get anywhere in life and in, it just even in terms of some kind of responsibility to the household, women are expected to go to work.
Yeah.
And then they still have to do all of the cleaning, all of the cooking, the child caring, looking after parents, everything.
Yeah, no, it's just gotten worse.
Yeah. It's, you know what I mean? It's like we've just got a full-time job and a full-time job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're working, 70 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to kind of let something go at some point.
Yeah.
Because
Definitely. And
otherwise,
that's what I love about your classes, because it's like when you're doing the class itself, there's also always some sort of lesson, like you talk about like the hips and not storing things and, like not having to use walkers one day when we're older. And there's like just more preventative measures that we can take that, we don't end up like that one day and just being more conscious and more aware. How does one go about getting awareness? How? Do you just get awareness when you hit a fucking brick wall and you're like, oh, now I'm aware, thanks God? Because, you get those silent nudges from the universe. Like first you'll be in a car accident or you might like bump your toe or you might do something. And I know a lot of people just think this is separate things that happened. Like, so when people in my life have little accidents or big accidents, I'm always like, oh, wow, what's this lesson? Right.
yes.
When someone passes in my life and I'm going through a transition, I'm like, okay, what is this? What does this mean for me? And I try and gather the lessons. And not everybody operates that way, and that's fine, right?
Yes.
But how does one go? Does the awareness come from the lesson? Then you have, consciousness and awareness is a big thing. And it's like trying to say to someone, just raise your awareness. And it's like, how does one, you can't just go to a workshop and tomorrow you've raised your awareness. So how can we become a bit more self-conscious in terms of like in our daily habits to become a bit more aware of like who we are, what we're doing and, where we're going?
Okay. So I feel one of the most important things is what we touched on earlier. And like, it's called meditation, but just taking that time to sit with yourself. Because when you're moving from one situation to another, and most of those situations are on high speed or, they're, just really stressful, then you're not going to ever gain awareness. Awareness comes from a place in our consciousness that is only accessible through silence and through stillness. As soon as we start to move, so the best way I can explain that is if you get a glass of water and you put a few spoonfuls of dirt in the water and you stir it up, the water is obviously very murky. You put the glass aside and you go away and you come back maybe half an hour later and all the dirt is on the bottom of the glass and the water's clear. So that shows you what happens when you agitate something, when something is being stirred up or moved. So if you are able to sit in stillness for like 10 to 15 minutes a day, you know, you don't have to, it's nice to do a fancy meditation practice, but if you can just sit there with yourself.
Yeah.
And even thoughts will come and go, whatever, but it's giving time for that energy to settle.
Yeah.
Because our energy is going all over the place. And the more we move and the more we get caught up in that, it will not settle.
Yeah.
And we cannot gain awareness because we don't have clarity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got to allow the stillness to create the clarity that creates the awareness.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I think just building it up as well. Like, I think for some people, 10, 15 minutes might be really scary. Like, even though, yeah, like it's like, I just want people to take away from this as well, that conversation. Like, it's just about building blocks, really, because Rome wasn't built in a day. Like, it's just one brick after another. And it's like, if you fall off the wagon, it's fine. If you've been doing 3-4 days and then you're like, oh, I haven't done it now for a month. It's like, that's okay. Like, just pick yourself back up again. And then you start again. Like, you don't have to be perfect. And that's the thing about yoga. There's no such thing as perfection.
There's no such
thing. It's like, I remember even when I'd be doing a pose, I'd be getting frustrated, pissed off. I'm like shaking and I'm trying to breathe and deepen the pose. I've fallen over and I'm like getting angry. And Frankie's like, stop. Like, it's not about that. Like, and I remember she was trying to do, I think, the crow's pose. So I can't remember which one, with your hands on something. She couldn't do it courageous enough. It was funny because I wasn't practicing yoga for all that long and I just did it in 5 minutes.
Wow.
And she was like, oh my God, I've been trying to do this my whole life. So there's something about that pose that she could not master for
some
some
get through it.
Yes. But then obviously, like, she has in recent times. But a lot has transformed for her life internally. Therefore, she's able now to do it, right?
Yeah,
That's like the perfect example. It's like you're trying to do this thing just over and over and over again, and you're trying to get good at it. But it's really, there's so many other things that are happening but in the background that you don't even see, like subconsciously. And that's what I love just about even your practice. It's like, it's just building blocks and it's just about sustainability and there's actually so much power in slowing down.
Oh, the power in stillness is phenomenal. If you can sit for 5 minutes, make it 5 minutes a day, build on it. I do meditation. I teach a lot of meditation one-on-one and in groups. And I tell everybody, like, if it's too much, then just do less and work with that until you can do more.
Yeah.
And you really would never want to do more than half an hour. Like half an hour would be max, but 5 minutes, just sit yourself for 5 minutes. You put your time on your phone or whatever, sit there, look at the sky or close your eyes, internalize. You really want to internalize yourself. You want to get rid of all distractions. So, preferably no music, no insight timer, no nothing. It's just about you.
Yeah.
And meeting your self. In space.
Definitely. And I think as well, because what we'll do is because I was just saying about this on my stories on Instagram the other day about the forgiveness meditation, which was so powerful. And the reason I want to bring it all to the listeners is because I think forgiveness, especially in our culture with everything that's happened, and the world I come from and what we've been through, like, forgiveness is so powerful, and not holding grudges, against yourself or against others. So we will do a forgiveness meditation. I'll do it actually in a little separate thing so that people can listen to this and then they can click on the next one and it will have the meditation separately.
Beautiful.
So, but can you explain to people, first of all, where can people find you? Like, how can they connect with you so they know if they need help? Yes, work with meditation, with whatever. If they feel like it's something they're curious about. And I would say to people, like, follow the breadcrumbs. If you're seeing yoga pop up and you always want to try this, like, how can people connect with you online if they're somewhere else, they're not on the Gold Coast?
Yeah, sure. So I do a lot of things on Zoom, but I have a website which is very, very easy to find. You just punch in the Yogini and it usually comes up close to the top or at the top. And you can go into that and there's lots of links and things there that will, or you can message me through the website. There's also a place where you can contact me and ask me questions. And so I do meditation online. So I use Zoom as a platform to communicate with people all over the world. And yeah, so it's, if you would like to try something with me or work with me in either a mentoring way, that something in your life is an issue bothering you, and yogic practices are, I always say yoga is the mother of self-development courses, because everything comes back to that. It's these basic teachings. So yeah, so if anyone wants to reach out to me either through mentoring, or if you'd like to learn some type of meditation practice, we can work out something. I teach a Vedic meditation, but I also have other practices that you might like to talk about, and I'm happy to discuss that.
Yeah.
And obviously work out something that works for individuals. So if you go on there and you look at the price and you think I can't afford that, please reach out anyway, because everything's doable.
Yeah.
And I will make it happen for people if they can't afford it. Yeah.
You do, honestly. And I think regardless of who's listening and what level they're on, even if you're not wanting to, veer deeply into the world of yoga and into the spiritual elements, but maybe you just want to do some, sort of simple breathing techniques.
But if they want to eat some breath,
yeah, they can just like go on your Instagram, send you a direct message. You're on Facebook.
Absolutely. I'm
going to link everything in the show notes as well.
Yeah. Okay.
You've also got an album that you've made, which is on Spotify, which I'll share the link to, which is amazing because you have a beautiful voice. So like you sing, it's unreal. And you do sound healings too, which my friend Diana just had recently.
Yes.
And yeah, she started crying. That's just so many tears shed on your floor. It's just like tears. It's like not sweat, just tears.
Yes.
And and I think like kudos to you, because you gotta hold space for that. And that's really like like with people who hold space for others like that, it means they've been through immense stuff themselves, which is why they're able to hold that in other people.
Yes.
So what are some ways that you look after yourself? Because I know the people that are listening, I know there's some keen yogis, like I know Frank is going to listen to this too, and other yoga instructors and teachers and people who already practice it. So what are some ways that you like to look after you to replenish your batteries?
Okay. So I do very simple things, actually. I do have my own meditation practice, which I do regularly. So that's important to me. I also love to go to the beach. Is my out. I love to sing and write music. So I also do that. And I think, it's interesting because I suppose people do ask me that a lot. How do I recharge my batteries? But I think what I get from the people that I support, or people that, we work in together, that is what, that fills me, that fuels me, that, it's like my cup is full.
Mm.
So, you can't, and I mean, that's in the Bible as well, that when you, there's no greater gift than giving. That you receive the blessings from that.
Yeah.
So, you don't really need too much to do for yourself. It's the gratitude and the blessings that come from seeing people leading happier lives and healthier lives. That's
gives you a big sense of satisfaction, hey?
Oh, totally. Totally. I know,
and it shows you too.
Yes.
Like it shows you. Like I feel like our gifts,
It shows me.
we all have gifts. They just all look different. For some people might be good voice or dancing or this or that or drawing, or everybody has a gift, I think, So, so another, like that's why I think meditation's so powerful, because you can tap into all of that and tune into all of that. So if you're feeling a bit lost, or you're feeling a bit confused, or you're lacking purpose, but I always feel like, if you're lacking purpose and direction, like go out and help someone, honestly.
Totally.
Like just go cook a little cake for your
Don't
neighbor.
make
Like
it
it's
about
so
you.
simple. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Because that's what happens. And like our world is full of it. Something happens in your life and then you make it all about you and your suffering, instead of, sort of, not that I want to belittle anybody's pain, of course not. But, a lot of times if we can't deal with it and change it, then, we can learn and grow from it to help others.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I love about community, because I like community's medicine, I reckon. And I want to also finish on, because what we'll do is we'll finish our chat, and then we're going to record the forgiveness meditation, which is awesome. So it'll be a lot easier. People can just push play and then it will play separate for them. So thanks for their little start, their little beginning, and they're, a gift from you,
Yes.
for the listeners today. So, but can you explain, let's finish on the Sankalpa. I love that because I love the Sankalpa. Like, can you have more than one Sankalpa? Because I just feel like there's like 3 words that come into my brain. Is there a wrong and right about it? Because I'm like, is mine not going to come true because I have like 3 of them instead of 1? But can you explain what it is? And then also we'll let people pick their Sankalpa for the day, and then that's what they can continue with maybe before or after their practice. If that's what they choose to do, just like a little building block. Just explain what it is and how they can do it.
Okay. So Sankalpa is a resolution. It's something that that you would like to aspire to. So it's usually something that's not in the sort of materialistic vein. It's not usually something like I want to be really beautiful or something like that. It's usually something that can overcome, like with any addictions or habits or behavior that maybe you find is a problem for you. So you can create a Sankalpa for that. You can create a Sankalpa for healing, that if you have any health issues, whether they be physical or mental or emotional. And you can have a Sankalpa also to bring something into your life that can be for a higher purpose, so something that comes into your life that you can utilize, like maybe, that you want to find your purpose or whatever that you can use to help others. So once you get your Sankalpa, you say it 3 times at the beginning, at the end, usually of Yoga Nidra, but you can do it any other time as well. Now, the reason that you only have one Sankalpa and you don't change it at point is because with everything in life, the more focused the energy is, then the more possibility, or the more it will have to actually manifest and happen. If we are constantly changing our Sankalpa, so say you come to my class and one Thursday night your Sankalpa is, one thing, then the next week you change it, the next week you change it. It's virtually like you are in a car and you have a GPS on, you've got a destination, and then you decide that, I'm not going to go to that destination. I think I'll go over here today, and then we're going to go over there. And at the end of it all, you really don't ever get anywhere.
Yeah.
You constantly changing directions, because we need to be very clear, we need to be very clear about everything we want in life if we actually want it to happen.
Yeah.
If we're constantly changing our mind, some people will say, I've got a great idea. I'm going to be a dancer. And then, maybe 6 months later, they're bored with that. I'm going to be a painter or whatever they're going to be. That's just an example.
Yeah.
You'll probably end up being nothing.
Yeah.
Probably end up working in a shop because you have to be razor clear about what you want. So the Sankalpa has that ability, and the reason, because you're in a very lucid state when you do the Sankalpa. So that's meaning that you are in a more empowered place to manifest.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. You're in this sort of semi-dream state. And so you'll basically have a channel open to your higher self. And you say the Sankalpa. And you stick with that until it manifests. And once it manifests, then you can do the next one.
100%, definitely. And I think intent is so important. Just the intention behind it.
Yes.
Important. And being vulnerable.
What intention?
Being vulnerable and being open. And honestly, just encourage anyone, if you don't have a yoga mat, get a blanket. And
you don't have to.
Honestly, just lay on the floor, because you don't realize how tired you are.
Yeah.
Until you just lay down on the floor. Honestly, not even on your bed, but on the floor. And once you hit that surface, you're just like, oh my God, I thought I had energy. Actually, I'm really freaking tired, And then if you just even relax there in that state, just move your body in whatever way feels good, and then slowly start building up on that, and pick your Sankalpa, whatever it might be. So your own resolution, which I love. and just start off with baby steps. So yeah, I love the
And
circle. That's
fancy
my
clothes
favorite.
to yoga.
And I love how at the end of the class, we say namaste. We say namaste to all each other.
Yes.
And it's always like when we used to be in church and we'd say like peace be with you, peace be with you.
Exactly.
And we used to shake hands, and I love that because there's so many similarities in all the practices. Like I love that, and it just is because going to church, I don't go as often as what I used to, for so many obvious reasons,
Yes. Yes.
because it's instead of becoming a place of worship and sort of spiritual delight, it turns out to be this like very judgmental place, for the community. So
Yeah.
if you don't go to a mosque or you don't go to a church, like just create your own little sacred place, or go somewhere, locally. Yeah. Or do it in your living room or in your bedroom, somewhere nice, somewhere simple, like away from the kids, away from everybody, just your own little space that you can just light a candle and just, be with you. So thank you so much for today's chat. I'm so excited to do the meditation.
Yes.
I'm going to come back with that. And I'll put all your links in the show notes. So if people want a sound healing, if they want mentoring, if they want any courses or anything like that, and just look on your website and connect with you on there and ask any questions as well. Just, like I just needed to bring you to the audience.
Thank you so
And
much.
thank you for taking the time to be here and to just help us get to the next phase. So
yes,
I love you so much.
Why I'm doing it. Love you too.
Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, darling.
You're
Bye, Anna.
So that was the episode. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And as ever, if you did, please consider sharing it with your loved ones and leaving me a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. It really does make a difference to the number of Balkan sisters that we can reach with the brilliant wisdom that my guests and I share. Thanks for being here. I doviđenja.